Oh my goodness. Did it just stop? That's so funny. Okay, well, I guess we're live, right? Everybody, thanks for joining in. We're going to talk about CMAs today. And JJ, I think you said that you have a listing that you wanted to look at first. And so for those of you that don't know, CMAs are just, we call them a comparative market analysis, where we look at properties and we try to evaluate like what we think they're going to go for. And this is good because if you're in the market to buy or sell, then it gives you a kind of a reference point, so you can see how we evaluate things as realtors. So JJ, I'm pulling this up. Is that cool?
Yeah, so right on, this is my screen. So the first thing is I'm going live with this listing, right? It's going live tomorrow. So you're getting some very exclusive off-market information right here. You can see the status is I for incomplete. So essentially, like Ian said, the C in CMA is comparable shopping. So what I have on this other screen, this other window, is similar properties. What I did was there's a neighborhood called Country Club in Georgetown. So I made sure it was Country Club in Georgetown. You know, you could slice and dice it however you want. Square footage, I did 200.
Can we pause there and talk about why you looked at a particular neighborhood?
I
and
think
if Randy, if you have any thoughts on that, like why would we want to just do a neighborhood too?
Yeah, what do you think, Randy? How do you slice up stuff?
I try very hard to stay in the same school zoning area for like that's a big one, although not everybody's paying attention to that. That's a pretty big chunk of same shoppers are looking at a particular school in the area. And then from there, it really depends on how many comparable properties do I have available in that bubble. And then I start to expand out to make sure that the homes are actually matching up size for home and size for lot. But yeah, you want to definitely stay, you need a like for like property. And so one big criteria point is it zoned to the same schools?
Yeah, I think schools are a huge, I agree with you, like evaluator in demand. You know, I think families, or even just
who's
understanding the value, like schools is part of it. So I did Country Club, and then I did 200 square feet of the subject property, like 1,960. I did, I think, like 1,760 to 2,160. Year built, I did 10 years up and down just to see what it would give me. Before I dive into it, you can see the acreage is about 1/3 of an acre. So what happens is I put in those criteria into the MLS search. You can see square footage, all that here. And I went a year back. I felt like looking at 2022. What's your thoughts on 2022? Would that pretty much be a good reference point because it was this height of interest rates, so to speak?
Interesting.
Yeah, that's always a conversation. I think we have to look at what's available for sale on the market, because if there's nothing available, then you might have to go back a year, 2 years, 3 years. But 2022, yeah, it's a rough one. It's a rough one to be able to compare the value of something that was built then, and for a number of reasons. One reason is I hear arguments. I'm not saying this, but I hear people say, well, houses built in 2021 and 2022 weren't built as well. And I'm like, seriously, you think that? Would that affect
or
the marketability of the home?
I mean, the sold time.
Sold time, I try really hard to stay in the 90-day window, but sometimes it's just not happening. And I'll go back, the full year like you're about to do here, but then I try to make those adjustments in the full CMA report of however much the home's appreciated, or in our case this year, depreciated.
Yeah, so this is interesting because this very specific neighborhood, there's 5 matches.
Sorry, I was answering a completely different question.
Yeah.
You can see the date. So if I click here, we go from oldest to newest. It's going to be something like last May to last October.
Any reason why you would venture back so far into the year versus maybe just expanding out the criteria of the house?
It's just a very unique space because the thing about this neighborhood, and Georgetown, the San Gabriel River cuts through. And I think there's something very interesting about the value of like walkability. So if I start, go over this way, but I just kind of stayed here to just get a reference point. And another thing that I was thinking about was interest rates were getting hiked up throughout the year and peaked around, to me, I would say like July, August. So I think these were fairly adjusted to the interest rate fear. And I think the interest rate fear is here. So I felt like this was a decent reference point. But I could go outwards. I think sometimes there's also different ways to, like, you slice it one time a certain way for an analysis, and then you could go like another step and look at other neighborhoods too.
Well, I think your local knowledge that you just shared about that river running through shows why it's so important for somebody to make sure that they hire a listing agent that knows the area and would know that that particular character trait matters, and to be comparing homes just within that space that you just outlined for us. Because if they just hired somebody from 30 miles down the way, they wouldn't know.
Yeah. And there's very interesting things too, like this Wolf Ranch shopping center, and this is downtown Georgetown. I feel like that helps this value. You get further away from it, it's hard to start anchoring why was that a certain price when you start getting further away from some of these spaces. So I like to hear what y'all think, because this is going live. These are my virtual staging pictures, but fairly updated to an extent in the past decade. You can see some stonework here. Oh, I guess I have to click through it like this. You can see the appliances are also, let me zoom out a little bit, fairly updated stainless steel. You can see the backsplash. Virtual staging. That's high-end laminate flooring. There's the stonework on the fireplace. Granite countertops. Tile backsplash.
So one of my questions is, why did you feel, or are you still talking to the seller about this, or what? Like, why is the decision virtual staging versus actual staging? Did you have that conversation? Did you have a chance to have that conversation?
I did.
Because not everybody can.
I did. This is a master bath. I suggest going all out regarding staging, like physical staging.
Well, especially at this price point.
Yeah. I would just, because I don't want to air out too much of our conversation behind the scenes, but the sellers, you can see this is all like container store.
Dirty laundry, get it out there, man.
Let's just say some sellers.
No, so for those of you that are kind of listening into this, some people just want to squeeze as much as they can out of the profitability of the house. That's why you're listing your house for sale, because you have other plans. And so the cost difference between virtual staging versus tangible staging can be significant. The question then becomes, is one going to sell more than the other, right? So is it going to sell because people are looking at online pictures and the virtual staging is prevalent? Or are they going to look at, are they going to go to the house, and then based on what they see in the house, that helps them make their decision? And then if that's the case, they walk into a vacant house, they're like, oh, well, where's all the furniture? Well, you could have done actual staging to make people feel a little bit better about it.
Where are you at with staging, Randy? And a seller?
For staging, I think it's pretty important. So I provide staging as a part of my listings, and I find that to be really important for that first experience on Zillow, to have the home decked out looking the best that it possibly can. And that goes for whether the home is fully updated, or even more so if it's not. So it's got Formica countertops and, could use some updates in the bathroom and such. Staging can go a really long way. And then the experience matters even more to me once they're in there walking around. It helps brighten up the home. The professional stager knows what they're doing and making the home show its space to the best possible way. And, really elevating the floor plan. And so I think staging is incredibly important. And then, there's a window there of time that starts to matter now that our homes are staying on the market for a long time. So like 30 to 45 days is about how long you get to have that staging furniture in there. and then it's pulled out, but at least you still had it for those photographs if the home is going to stay on longer and past that. So I find staging to be a pretty crucial part of listing, in my opinion.
What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, I do agree that having the staging can elevate the property a lot. One of the stagers I've been working with recently, she was doing, I think she called it like pocket staging or micro staging or something like that, where you're only staging corners and sections so that it looks good in pictures, but it doesn't cost a whole lot. So it's kind of a hybrid thought process. I'll show that house later. I don't think it was actually staged in the pictures, but I'll show it later and the reason why we went that approach. So, but while we're talking about it, Mark says, nice looking home. I think you might have a potential there, potential buyer.
Thank you, Mark.
I'm just kidding.
So this is the list price I'm thinking, like under 500, right? So when I go to some of the results from last year, is there anything y'all would like to see? Like, what do you click on first, or do you just kind of click through everything and start comparing? Here, let's look at this one, 491. Last July. So if I click on this one,
yeah. So some of the time, I mean, obviously we look at what's closed recently. I do like to consider if there's any active competition in the properties, but before that, I like looking at just the very direct information, like how many bedrooms, how many baths, what year, and you already constrained all of that. So this is a good sample set of data. And for those of you that are curious or have never done this or have seen it done a different way, there are lots of ways to run CMAs. There are a lot of different apps out there. We have something called RPR, which is Realtor Property Resource. There's, I mean, Zillow gives you a Zestimate. Like all these places give you valuations. But what we're doing is looking at actual sold data, which is what your appraiser is going to look at anyway, right? So we're comparing these properties almost like on a factual basis.
And I also think it's still fairly relevant, kinda. It closed in July. Like I said, the interest rates did continue to go up a little bit. So let's just see how this looks. I like looking at the map because that river's there. Now, it's not a house that backs up to the river because these are premium lots. It's on the street.
I was going to say, if it backed up, oh my gosh.
That's terrible pricing. Yeah. So, you know, still on a cool street though. But let's take a look on the inside.
No, the street's gorgeous. Yeah.
And this is kind of what's going on the inside. We could flick through this a little bit. Floors might be comparable. Stone fireplace, you know, they got a sunroom. I would say our kitchen, you know, this looks like laminate. Possibly. I can read the description.
Yeah, that needs some updating though. Look at that wallpaper. Oh yeah. Look at those colors. Oh yeah.
Again, the bathroom comparison and some of the updates. So, you know, that's where I chose. I think the lot size is about the same. So this listed at 525 back then. That's the list price, and then closed at 491. And cumulative days on the market was 8 days. So even though the interest rates were going up, it still closed under 5. So that's one example of why I thought under 5 worked. And that's just like one property, you know.
Yeah. And so one of the things I think Randy was talking about, like going wider, like it, you know, we know that once you start getting into suburbia, as you go outside of the neighborhood, the tax rate can change pretty significantly. And so like this one, pretty good tax rate. There's no HOA. Like it's already a compelling pull. But some of these other houses that are like, let's say 2 or 3 neighborhoods over, they might not be as compelling, even though they're the same exact house, they might not be as compelling of a pull.
And I even read in the description of the comparable, home is in need of some TLC. Home was to be remodeled, so there's some new plans. So maybe it looks, you know, better in the pictures, possibly just because of that description. So, you know, I didn't want to get too too far away from that. We just thought staying under 5, and staying under 5, I thought was also an interesting element. I think that's more listing strategy than comparable per se, but that's another reason we put it under there. Does that make sense? Do y'all do stuff like that?
What was the question?
Yeah,
what was the question you did?
Like it.
I positioned it under 500 to. There's something about like $500,000.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah.
A mental game of
yes, yeah. That's a psychological tactic.
Below the fold.
Well, because here's the thing. I've heard two schools of thought. I've heard it's below the fold concept, but then I've also heard if you put it at 500,000, the people that are going from 450 to 500, and the people that are going 500 to 550, both get to see it. Right? But if you put it at 499, you're cutting one of those segments out. So I've heard it both ways. I think at the end of the day, it's just how competitive is the home versus the other homes that are there in that price range. Like you can play all the games you want. People will know if it's a good deal.
Yeah.
They'll see it. People are so much more educated and have access to so much more information.
That's very true. Access to everything except for the sold data. We are supposed to be the gatekeeper of that, but they have so much information on their own that they come locked and loaded in a lot of ways. And I feel that for kind of that idea of mentally, trying to play the games to my game, and it's not for every seller. So, I have to explain myself and explain why I feel this tactic is important, is to have the best looking house with the best price for this particular market that's happening right now. It is heating up some, and we are having multiple offers come back, which is good. But, the 6 months before that, it was a little bit of a struggle to get people to come and take a look at your house. So to have the best looking house, staging, photography with the best price, so I try to have competitive pricing compared to the neighbors, it will help position and set you up to get off the market quicker, because in the end, the market pays what the market's going to pay. And as long as you've made the home look as best as it possibly can, depending on what the seller is willing to do to make those updates and paint those walls and replace that carpet, that's what the market's going to pay for it. And then you can try to set it up for a quicker sale with competitive terms by pricing aggressively, just slightly aggressively. You don't need to, go low ball on your pricing, but don't make it, in my opinion, over what the CMA is showing. You'll just set yourself up for a long time on the market.
Yeah, I love it. I have those conversations with sellers. They're like, I want to sell it for as much as I can without spending any money. And it's like, well, I don't know that's how it's going to work. I understand that, but that's what literally everybody wants. And your buyers want the exact opposite. The exact opposite. They want to spend no money and get the best house. And so like, how do you meet in the middle so that people are like, okay, this makes us feel like we're both winning, or I'm winning as the buyer, because they're the ones buying it.
I feel like for sellers that are obviously positioning themselves in that way, if I can convince them to do a fresh coat of paint and fresh carpet so that the home feels clean, and maybe it's not updated, but if it feels clean, that's a huge difference compared to then going to the next home that doesn't have that fresh paint and doesn't have that new carpet. And that can really elevate you without having to spend thousands of dollars on quartz countertops.
Yep.
Yes. So, Randy, did you have one? You want me to pull one up?
Yeah. So I guess my approach is going to be a little different. And I do have it ready so I can share my screen if I did the positionings right. So this is me helping my buyers shop this past week. And I was going to just show an example of how I go about that.
Okay. I love it. Perfect.
So I think it would be best to do.
And by the way, so for anybody who's kind of watching this, yes, we're running the CMAs as if we're listing a home, but you also want to think about this as a buyer, because buyers, when you're looking at 15 houses, how do you understand like what is either the best value for your money or how the resale can affect your house in the future? Running a CMA is a good tool with your realtor to be able to figure that out. All right, I've got it up.
Yeah, so my share screen.
Oh, that's funny. That's
Were you going to show this one?
Multiple offer. It's happening right now.
This is one of my agents. This is one of my agents' listings.
Oh, well, then I don't want to do it because I don't want to disrupt.
No, do it. No, disrupt it. Disrupt it. We've talked about this. Disrupt it. This is the point. The point is we're giving good information for people. And sometimes this is us working together. We need to be able to check each other sometimes, okay, that works, or this doesn't work, and here's why.
So thankfully, I don't have anything negative to say about the listing itself. So that's good. I just didn't know if they were going into anyways. So you're allowing me to continue. So I'm going to continue. Okay. So my buyers sent me this.
Yeah.
When they favored a property, I put together a property folder for them, and I put in reports that I run, and then the listing documents. And part of my reports is a quick CMA. And then as long as they like everything that they're seeing, we go see the house actually. And then from there, once we've seen the house, if they want to make an offer, then I do a full CMA on RPR, which Ian mentioned earlier, where I actually make adjustments. And I wanted to mention all of that because there's a little bit of a process here. And I'm starting here at the very beginning. My clients favorited this property, so I put a report together for them. So here it is, 210 Arnage Drive, listed at $399. We have 2,400 square feet. The lot size is 0.15 of an acre. It was built in 2021, and those are the three things I start off with looking at to put together a quick CMA. So I come over here and I put my criteria together. I'm on the MLS now. Are you guys seeing that on your screen? Did I switch over?
Yeah, I see it. Yeah? I don't know where JJ went. He'll be back, okay. I'm sure.
So I do 0 to 90 days I want to see homes that close in the last 90 days. So already very different from JJ. So it was really interesting to watch his routine, and I'm curious to watch Ian's. So I want to see the last 3 months, single family, my square footage. I try to go more narrow than this, but because I've already run this quick CMA, I know that being more narrow does not work. So I'm a little bit broad here at 2,000 to 2,700 square feet. I want the lot size to be under 0.2 of an acre. And I want to do the built in the year 2000 up to 2021. I don't want to do 2022 because that most likely means that the home that sold that was built in 2022 has never been lived in. And so that will not be a comparable property.
Sorry about that.
So I did 2000 to 2021. And then we get, and then I'm doing a 2-mile radius around the address. And so that gives us a whopping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 results. I don't want to cross over the highway. That's going to be a completely different area. But I'm really limited on what I'm seeing here. So I have one house that's at 2,600 square feet, built in 2002. Then I have another 2,400 square feet, built in 2004. So all of these already are really rather old compared to my 2021 house. And then we have 2005 at 2,000 square feet. And then I selected, I think these last two, they're getting a little bit older. Yeah, 2014. So that's really helpful. So even though we're crossing the freeway for this, it's closer to the age of the 2021 house. So I went ahead and I marked that one. And then let's see if I chose this one too. I think I would actually probably take this one off because I don't want to cross the freeway for a 2005 house. So it's really not feeling comparable to me. So basically, the gist of what I'm feeling right now is these are not great comparable properties, but this is what has sold in the last 90 days. And to do the appreciation adjustments to me is not preferable because I just don't feel I feel like the appraiser sometimes I want to try to be in the mind of the appraiser, and he usually is going to really try to go for more recent comps. So I've selected these. And then I let my clients know, listen, the quick CMA has a lot of adjustments that need to be made. So I actually don't quite know how well this home is priced at this point. Let's go see it. And then if you like it, then I'm going to do a full CMA for you, which I do on all my properties, where I'm going to actually make adjustments. So like for each year difference from 2021 to the 2014 house, there's a $3,500 adjustment to make per year. And then you can make adjustments like that for the lot size, for the square footage size of the home. And so all of those adjustments can help us really fine tune and come in closer to getting an idea on if the home is priced appropriately, and it helps the buyer come to a more concrete understanding of how the home should be priced, and it helps them put together their offer. But the last thing that was interesting about this property that I noted to my clients was that when I look up the actual listing, we have tax information, or the history of it, and I noticed that obviously they purchased in 2021, and they have a loan on it at 406. So to be listed at 399, they just purchased it with a loan at 406. So there's obviously still some down payment money that they put in there. They're really not going to budge on their price. So I advise to my buyers, be ready for the home needs to probably be around what they have it priced at, simply because they just bought it somewhere over 406. And so that was my example of running CMAs for buyers.
That you included that. I love that you included that. So many people overlook that the loan data is public, and it's like, yeah, but this will give you a hard number, right? Like if people aren't going to make any money, and you also have to consider the commissions for all the brokerages, or the broker commissions on both sides. You have to, there's just so much more to consider. The selling, oftentimes the sellers will pay the closing costs, help pay closing costs, maybe some of the title fees, there's HOA, transfer fees, like all of these elements of the sale. And so if you're at a price point, you can see what their loan amount is. It's like, does this even make sense for you to try to negotiate?
Right. Yeah.
Well, it depends on the desperation of the seller.
Yes. Yes.
That's generally what it is. I always say people move for love or money. And if you can figure out what that motivation is, love, people might make it happen, but money, people will make it happen. It's usually
and so that that was an important question to the buyers was, is there something you're just absolutely in love with about this house that you would pay the $399, because that's what it needs to be for the seller. So yeah. Thanks.
All
Ian.
right, so I'm gonna pull this one up. No, that's awesome. I want to pull this one up because we had a hard time pricing this one, and I'm gonna show you why. So we just went live on Friday, and we've had great turnout for showings and all that sort of stuff, but I want to hear some comments on this. So we went live on Blessing Avenue. It's super cute, right? And this is one of the things we were talking about, staging and everything. So I pulled up my website. We listed it at $425. It's a 2-bed, 1-bath, 900 square foot home.
Oh.
Okay. Oaf is right. Oaf is right.
There's a particular audience looking for homes like that, though, for sure.
Well, that's what makes this interesting. It's right down the street from Mueller.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
And everything around it. It's St. John's. Yeah.
St. John's. Yeah.
What makes it super curious is that every other home on that same street has been converted into a condo, a double stacked condo. So this lot is large enough for an investor to purchase, tear down, and put 2 condos there at like $1 million each. Or someone who needs to buy a home, but maybe they can't afford more than $500,000 to live in Austin. And this is a great option for their first property that's still kind of city centric.
That's perfect, because I felt like you lost a big group of buyers there that just simply need more than 900 square feet, but to have the lot large enough to support the condo regime idea gives you 2 very large camps of people, investors, and then kind of the inner urban people that don't need more than 1,000 square feet. So that's great.
Yeah. I love the inner urban scene. So I was curious, could you do additional dwelling unit without moving the house, or?
Yeah, I think so. Without moving the house, right? And like they have efficiency, AC, all that sort of stuff. Look at market trends. Okay, so what I wanted to do is show this. So I wanted to pull up Zillow because I wanted to see what Zillow's number was. That's important, right? Like, why does Zillow think it's that? But this also likely to sell faster than 96% of homes nearby. Like, they're contradicting themselves almost, right?
Yeah,
I know. Well,
Whatever,
that's why I
Zillow.
wanted to pull it up. That's exactly why I wanted to pull it up, because I don't think everybody sees that. Because the data that they're pulling, look, three days on Zillow, 524 views, 29 saves. That's good stuff to share with a seller like this. It's getting a lot of traction. Plus any videos that we put out and all this other stuff. It's moving along.
You know, Ian, it's a really good comparison of Zillow's 415 is like my quick CMA, no adjustments, just pulling
no
comps
adjustments
from the neighborhood, even though there's some really large adjustments to make some time by somebody who's actually getting in there and doing that work.
Mm-hmm. And what I'm thinking is, because of this assessment, people are going to shop based on that number. Like that's just, they do that, even if it's not right. They're going to look at that number. And so what I'm expecting is some of the offers that come in might be targeted based on this, assuming closing costs, closing costs, maybe seller contributions or paint or whatever they want to kind of argue. Now, it's time to go and look at the actual CMA, right? So I like pulling up active, pending, closed. I'm going to do condo because I told you about this particular street. 90 days is a lot, but I'm going to start with the address. So it's 7005 Blessing Avenue. So I'm going to start with the proximity around the address, because the neighborhood, like every other street, it's just a whole amalgamation of properties. It's not like if I stay in this exact neighborhood, it's going to change anything, because this neighborhood across the street is similar to the neighborhood. So, but we can go back to that. So I'm going to go just 1 mile out and see how many I get. That's way too many. So if you're looking at the bottom, we've got 60 matches. I'm dropping that some more. Let me go half. 13. So that's a good number for me. This is 90 days out. I'm going to drop this to see if I can do 60 days just to see if we get a little bit more. Didn't change the number. I'm going to drop it even more. It'd be kind of crazy if, so 1. So I'm going to go back to 60 days and get those properties out there. So I've got condo, single family. We know this is a 2-1, but we're going to look at these numbers in a second. Like I said, this one was a hard one to be able to evaluate. Okay, so Don Stewart says, what? That's a $60,000 house back in the day. Yeah, you know what? Interest rates were 18% back in the day. What's your point? That doesn't, it changes. It all changes.
It's still
right? Credit scores mattered back in the day.
A lot is what we
you know, Ian, I like that you're also looking at all the actives and pendings, because when you're going to list a home, you need to be comparing yourself to everybody that is currently on the market, whether they've been sitting on the market, and, you know, try to make sure that you don't make that same mistake and everything. So it's important to have those included with all the closed comps.
And one closed
exactly. Well, there's one closed, there's a couple active under contract, but for those of you that haven't seen this process before, if it's AU or pending, we don't know what it's going to close at. So an example is this house at the very bottom, 1208, was listed for 485. It closed at 450. So the seller took it, but you don't know that until it's closed. And that's why we're always looking at these closed properties. But look at days on market. It was on the market less than a month. They were desperate. They received an offer. They were like, "This is probably the best we're going to get. We're going to close." That's what happened, right? And there might be some more information in there, which we can see in the MLS. You can see they're called agent notes or private remarks when we close. It'll say, well, this happened, or it was actually the brother of a friend that bought the house, and so they gave him a discount. Those are all things that aren't on your Zillow or, you know, for out-of-state realtors to know. Like, people don't know that. So days on market, I like paying attention to this column because this house, 341 days on market. But I'm noticing it's a unit, it's a condo. So because it's a 2-1, but it's built in 2015. And my guess is this particular condo, they put it on the market like at construction start. So it's skewing your data, right? Same with
pre-sales.
Good point.
Yeah, pre-sales. It skews your data, right? And so now I'm looking, what are houses that are comparable where my data is not skewed? So like, what's a 2-1? This is a 2-1, but it's a condo, 2015. So I haven't touched dates. I haven't touched anything. I'm just trying to find where the numbers are at. So these new condos, this 2015 is almost 500,000, but it's been on the market for a long time. So that's kind of interesting, right? It's kind of interesting. Large yard, still a 2-1. $580 per square foot. It's a really interesting number with that.
Well, and what unit number is that? So is it, I can't read that. I'm sorry. What is
sorry,
it?
B3.
Oh, never mind. I thought it was like 83 or something, and so it would be a complex. Ignore me. Sorry.
Oh, no, not a complex. Yeah.
But even B3 is
that's a good point.
Like,
but look at it, 850 square feet. So I'm going to open it up to look. So we saw the subject house. Now this is the condo. So first things first, it was updated or remodeled, 850 square feet. The lot is larger. It's almost double the size. Tax rate, we've got that. And then they have a $400 annual HOA, where my property has no HOA because it's been there well before they even created HOAs. They didn't even have HOAs.
Yeah, that's a surprising HOA though.
Yeah, so let's open it up and take a quick look at it. Right, 800 square feet. It's a room.
This is a AB unit though, right?
It is.
Hence the.
So this is B3. It looks like it's what, 3 in one?
Yeah, maybe 3
in one section. But it's nice. It's clean. They got rid of. Look, they didn't even bother with flooring. They're like, concrete it is. They put in 2 cabinets and called it a done deal. Right? And so for anybody who's watching this, do you think that this is worth $500,000, $500,000 for this 800? I know Don doesn't. What did he say?
Where is it on the
map? Oh, yeah. All right. So if I, is this pulling up? Okay. I don't think that's going to, yeah. If I do it that way, it doesn't pull up the thing. So I'll just do here.
I better see some like bikeability to some fun spots for the, but it is nice. The 2015 age is a good age. All those houses can be so old sometimes. Oh, okay. Interesting. So we're inside that space.
That's an interesting triangle.
Yeah.
Highway.
It is. There's, I mean, you have to go a little bit for stuff, but there's plenty of stuff around. Driving distance, there's tons within just a few minutes.
It's a lot of actives though. It's hard to pinpoint.
It is. That's exactly why we were having a struggle with the actual list price, because of what the competition is. We don't want to sit on the market.
Condos.
And there's a lot of condos, and this is no HOA. So let's just pull up the actual property. So it's a slightly larger square footage, but half the yard size is that particular one. It's priced much less per square foot, lower tax rate, right? And no HOA, like I had mentioned. So it's ready to go, and it's super cute. It's already like everything. We even had a pre-listing inspection and everything. Everything is good to go.
Ooh.
Beautiful house. This has since been painted, and then the door has since been painted. Say it again.
There was one closed.
Okay.
That looked like a condo.
Yeah.
But it's a condo, and it's in the.
So this is the one that was on the market for 23 days. So yeah. So this is 1,500 square feet, smaller yard, 2016 resale. So it's sold at way low price per square foot.
When did it go contingent from its list date? Like I wonder if the price drop happened in negotiations.
Yep, February 5th.
And 113. So no, they probably accepted an under list price after being on the market for a few weeks.
Yeah, because this is back when the market wasn't like hot.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying it's hot right now, but
is this an updated older home or a recently built? Looks recently.
I mean, it looks like yeah. I was gonna say, did they mark as?
No, it's 2016. So I don't really feel like much could have come up in inspections to cause that price drop. So I think you're right. They took the 450 and ran.
450
and ran. They're like, we just don't know if it'll keep going down, and so that's one of those circumstantial things. Yeah, somebody bought it as a.
What year is yours, Ian?
1940. Right. So,
but you have your own lot, whereas that one had like no lot, right? So that's a huge appeal.
The condos are hard to read.
Yeah, it's its own lot, no HOA, lower tax rate. and 1940 resale. But original floors, most things are original, but everything is in working condition and super clean.
I would even go further back and look at houses. I think the condo house thing is hard for me to compare.
That's huge. So let's talk about that. So how far back would you go?
I would do a year just to see and keep it at the houses.
I think I would keep the condo regime comps in mind, but I think for my hard reports and like trying to figure out pricing, I would stick to just the single family lots so that
agreed
you get more value.
So let's do it. Do I want to shift it to 2 1s or just leave it at this? Well, let's leave it open. There's only 17, so I'm going to go to single line.
Yeah, and I would just start making adjustments from. Look, you're still getting units in there though.
Bethune down. So look, 430. This one dropped to 390. But now we're looking at, July of last year.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even July. What is that? May? Wow. Mm-hmm. May of last year, August.
Almost a year.
And then this one, yeah.
So I see some 3, 4.
465. Action. So that's brand spanking new.
Can I see your radius? No, I know you did a mile out, but I'm wondering what that looks like on the map.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. See?
Yeah.
Okay, staying inside there.
Yeah, we're staying inside the little loop, and if we needed to adjust it a little bit.
I think that's pretty good.
We go. Yeah, I do too. That's why I was saying that. But this added a few more over here.
There's some more.
Yeah, I just slid it up some. So now let's see. Let me go back. So 495, let's see how it changed the prices significantly. You've got 500, 495, 465. And this was built, this was November.
That's a big house.
It is. It's much larger than that particular house.
What?
But again, half a million.
One size for this one. Are they able to put another, they probably can't put another unit on there.
So approximately the same lot size, approximately the same, higher. Yep. So almost double the size house, and then higher tax rate, still no HOA.
So I almost feel like this is like, it looks as nice as yours does. It's newer, but you're not able to put that second unit on there. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Look. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Mark K says, does it come with a treasure map where the other 400K of worth is buried? That's really funny. Listen, man, the other 400K is the fact that you can put this up for a weekend during South by and probably make 10 grand, That's one of them.
Yeah, it's the dirt. It's not the house. It's the land itself.
Yeah. All right, we're going to come back to this. Let's see. Diggs, by the way, 7 says, "Hi, what's up, G? I don't know who they're talking to. Must be you, Randy." And then John says, "You guys are back, or maybe I've just been missing episodes. Can you speak to how appraisals are done here? How can the housing market correct, but our appraisal goes up by?" All right. So who wants to tackle this one?
I'm getting very mixed feedback on that because I got my letter in and I liked my letter. Mm-hmm. It went down significantly, but I'm also hearing from other people that it went up. So I don't really know. I'm still kind of collecting some research on that to figure out what's going on out there. How about you guys?
So I think one thing that's kind of interesting with this is you think about the year of the house versus the sold date and then tax exemptions. Like, what are people, like, if you add all that together, what are the appraisers they're not considering that, but even if they aren't considering that, should they be, or are they secretly looking at it and then not publicizing that information? Because there's other things besides just the sales price, right? So,
the
sales
price.
Well, but see, that's the thing. They can't, but they have to evaluate the year of the house, when was it sold, and like if you're looking at a house that was built in 1940, there are no real comps that have sold. Like, that was the problem, right? So now you have to take generalized area data. And so if the houses that are newer are selling for less than they should, how does that affect your particular property? And you said they can't see our data, but we know that there was a snafu a couple years ago where they saw the data.
I protested last year, and they said it doesn't matter. We know what you paid for it. You just bought it this year, and it pissed me off.
Well, that was the second one. That was the second one. So it's they know, they can see their loan rates just like this. But also there are so many people, and this is the part that's really, really, really interesting. There's so many people that protested, they didn't like their numbers, and so they gave their sales price data. Once you do that, then they know.
Then they have that.
But if you do that, because if they don't have it, and then you're like, well, but here's the number I actually paid, so lower it. Well, now they have your data.
We did.
It's not a sigh.
I just couldn't believe that he told me, I know what you paid for your house. And I thought the whole point of non-disclosure is that you're not supposed to know that. And he was like, I'm not the person to submit that complaint to. And I'm like, but you're the person that I'm protesting my taxes to. Like, who else do I complain about that to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun conversation. At the end of the day, none of the data is like truly private unless you have it hidden away in layers, right? Like it's not private unless you made it that way.
Yeah, there's supposed to be,
even though they say it's private,
evaluations though. There's like a county appraisal and a market appraisal. They're not supposed to see each other too much regarding the appraiser.
Okay, this is interesting. So John says, go ahead, read it, please.
For example, homes were selling for low 900s last spring, but a couple of homes sold in December for 600. They appraised our home for 870. There's no way we could sell for 600. They appraised our home for 870. There's no way we could sell for that price today.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Protest. I feel like you would have success
yeah.
there.
Well, this is exactly what we're talking about. If you protest, and you can say, like, when you protest, are you providing comps and showing this information, or are you just like leaving it to the appraiser and saying, okay, well, this is it? Or are you bringing your like what you paid for the house and sharing that with the appraiser? Like, you have to have something. You can't just say it, right? And you know this, right? But if you're doing that, you're giving them more information that they can use against you, really.
I don't know. It's like, I feel like it's just new territory for all parties, you know, to have such giant swings in our values year to year. I think you can almost count on the fact that they don't know what they're doing either. So if you feel like you have a good protesting platform, you should do so and see if you can have success, and also be prepared to have no success too.
I almost think that the companies that have been protesting for years, that people have seen success with, even in a market where it didn't make sense, like you weren't worried about protesting, I think those companies might have an edge right now versus you trying to do it yourself or any of that stuff. I think that would be probably the best avenue. In fact, I owe somebody that message right now, like who's a company that we would use. So I think it was a good episode. What would you share with people? I think we did that, but let's go through one more. Like, what would you share with people that are going through this right now, that are either looking to buy or list, in regards to how we're running our CMAs?
I think you should make sure that it is a part of your interview to your real estate agents that you're going to consider hiring. You should ask them how they do their CMAs and make sure that they have a very solid, thorough explanation, because it's the most crucial part, whether it's a listing agent or a buyer's agent, that they understand how the home is going to be priced and how to use that effectively to your advantage.
That's good. How about you, JJ?
Yeah, I like how y'all pointed out, because I think sellers don't necessarily look at as many angles as we do. There are sold prices, right? That's typically, okay, that's the comparative market analysis aspect. and seeing what else is out there and active as comparable shopping. I think that's also something you should talk to the realtor about, or expect your realtor to bring up if they're not really looking at that. I think that's really interesting. But kind of seeing the flow of buyers in the area, kind of like Ian's example. There's condos. You kind of want to at least understand if they're like going to the condos or not, or what's happening. So actives are a part of comparative market analysis as well.
Yeah, actually, to piggyback on that too. Oh, go ahead, Ian.
No, you go ahead.
Well, to piggyback on that is, yes, like the actives are so important. So there's almost two things you're doing with your CMAs. One is you're trying to get your best guess at what the appraisal is going to come back at, because whether you're the seller or the buyer, you don't want to have any surprises with the appraisal. So you want to make sure that you understand what that's supposed to come in at and price accordingly or offer accordingly. But then two, for the listing side of things, the other thing that the CMA is doing is it's providing a snapshot as to what the pricing strategy should be by seeing what others are doing, what worked for them, what didn't work, and then to figure out what the seller wants and what their motives are, and to price around that information.
Right on.
I love that. John says, thanks for taking time to answer his question. Always our wisdom and wise counsel. We try, man. We're always learning. We're always trying to grow, and we're always trying to share information that helps people, because that's like many of us end up getting into real estate because our realtors or the process sucked for us at the time, and we're like, we can do better, and then we do better. But so one thing that I wanted to share was specifically when you're thinking about like pricing these things. Like I have a client right now, we're getting ready to list their home, and they have Tesla Powerwall, Tesla solar panels, and I'm like, that's going to be rough. It's going to be rough because like if you were a buyer, would you have paid another, $50,000 to $100,000 for this to be on the house or as part of the loan, right? Like that's a huge conversation.
Oh yeah.
And sure. So it's the little things. And then the other, oh my gosh, here's the biggest one. This is actually what I meant to say. If there is a realtor, and this is not every realtor, so please, please, please don't take it as that. But if there's a realtor that's been in the business for literally 2 years when COVID happened, and that's all they know, that's the only experience they have, there needs to be more something. There needs to be more evidence of their ability to do a good job for you, whether they have a solid mentor, whether they have a solid system, or whether they've sold, 100 homes, and so they really know the process. But the market today is very different than the market was during COVID. It is important that you consider that no matter what you're doing, like buying, selling, or whatever. Like there were a lot of people that made a lot of money, didn't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So keep that in mind. Thank you all for watching. Obviously, thank you all for being part of this and always sharing. It's always a good time. We'll see y'all in a couple weeks.